lasting impact. And today I have my special guest, former corporate entrepreneurship, and brings a unique perspective to her work as a leader and a management coach. No other than Miss Kim Miller-Hershon. Well,
Hi,
welcome, Miss Kim on Entrepreneurship 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
definitely. Well, Daniel, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me as a guest. I really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity. And I am a business coach and a corporate trainer. I came from business, and we can talk a little bit about this. I feel like I was never a very good employee. So I think entrepreneurship was a very good path for me. And I think I take that plus my own personal journey, plus having worked with hundreds of clients at this point to help leaders and managers communicate better, manage their time better, so that they really can elevate their own skills, the skills of their team, and then, of course, get better outcomes for the business.
Certainly. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Miss Kim. Thank you. And today let's talk about working in the business world, or working with the business executives, entrepreneurs, as well as the leaders. Miss Kim, the one thing the most successful leaders share, they genuinely care about their people in the bottom of line business world. Is a genuine care for employee a competitive advantage or essential luxury?
Well, Daniel, it's such an interesting conversation because there's, I think it is important to care about the people that
Hmm.
work for you, work in your business. I think, though, that there also has to be a consideration that the people who work for you are not more important than the actual business. And what I mean by this is I see this all the time where entrepreneurs hire their friends, they hire the people that are like them, and they are potentially not the right fit, or the business has grown beyond their skill set, the maybe even uh, the role has changed, right? The needs of the business have changed, and then you just keep the people on anyway. So, and I'm not saying don't care about your people. Obviously, it's very important to care about your people, but I don't think you can care about your people more than you can care about what serves the bigger business. And I think that's one of the hard things about being a leader, right? Is having to make the really hard decisions on the one hand. On the other hand, if all you care about are business outcomes and you don't care about your people, you're going to have a revolving door, or you're going to end up having people who don't care about the business as much as you do. So I think there's a lot of considerations, I think.
So, Ms. Kim, if your motivation is solely about power, a bigger salary, or flashy title, I urge you to pause and think, right? How does a leader's motivation shape the culture that grows around them?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think if all you care about is money, and it's not about value, right? And there's not about the value that you give to your customers and your prospective customers, the value that the culture and values that you have internally that are motivated by behavior. Somebody said to me recently, and I thought that this was like just brilliant way to characterize this, is that the culture of your company is what happens when nobody else is looking, which I just thought
Hmm.
was such a great way, right? So your your values have to live through the company. And by the way, Daniel, it doesn't matter what you say if your actions are incongruent. So if you say everything is rainbow and butterflies and that we're all a team and we're all in this together, but the perception of everybody is that you are only in it for power and money, things are going to break and things are not going to work well. I think it's really important to translate what the revenue goals are. Figure it out. You have to figure it out, but then why should somebody care? Why should somebody pay you? And then you operate on your why, right? The great Simon Sinek, that, I mean, he didn't invent it, but he definitely helped move the concept along. Why why should I care? And then I'm happy to give you money, right? As opposed to it being about it's just money for me, right?
Hmm.
Because that's not leadership, right? If it's just about you, then I don't know, be a solopreneur.
Very well said, Miss Kim. Why can't we just do our job? Because you work with the people, the lack of natural people skills, and then why not just us? Why can't they just do their job? How can leader who is process oriented learn to treat communication and management as a process they can master?
I would say, first of all, great question. Second of all, I would say that there's a lot of inefficiency and lost productivity in making your employees mad and making your team mad. Because think about this. If Daniel, if you're my supervisor, right, you're my manager, and you do something that makes me mad, and I then take work time to call John and say, "Can you believe what Daniel did?" And now there's two of us not working, right? Forever long that conversation takes, right? And if we are constantly replaying this, and that's assuming the only lost productivity is my telling that story one time, right? To one other person. So it's inefficient to have bad communication. The other thing is too is that replacing employees is very expensive. So, how would I convince a manager to or a leader to care about communication? I think the important thing here is that my I think arguments towards better communication to somebody who's very process oriented is to point out to them how inefficient it is to have poor communication, right? That it just takes a lot of time. So you're better off having better communication up front so that the things that they care about get done better and faster.
Hmm, certainly. And Miss Kim, why does it mean to lead like a boss, live like a badass, and why does the balance essential for high achieving leaders?
Yeah, that's so funny that you picked up that. Yeah, that is like one of my favorite words. Like, be a
Mhm.
badass. Like, you're a badass. I do love that. I think for me, it really connotes somebody who is really smart and just really living their best entrepreneurial life without limits, right? Not that everything is going great all the time, but they're up for the challenge, right? And they're, if something breaks, they're going to fix it. If they make a mistake, they're going to actually apologize for it. And so I just love the idea of being really strong and staying in the learning of things and just figuring it out, right? Just figure stuff out. And it's a process, right? It's not something that just happens one time, you've got it figured out and then you just move from there. So I like the characterization of a leader as a badass because I just, for me, it's a very positive and attractive quality.
Attractive quality indeed. Miss Kim emphasizes that people work for money, but they stay for meaning. How do entrepreneurs and executives embedded meaning into the daily work of their teams without it feeling forced or performative?
Right. So I will tell you that every team meeting that I have in my own company, right? I mean, and this is, I tell my executives that I coach to do this, but I also walk the walk, which is every single team meeting we have, we I go over what is our why? Why are we doing this? What value are we bringing the people that we serve? And I think it's really important to have that shared vision, of of what the goal is, meaning not just money, but value to the consumer of whatever it is, even if it's a service. I think the second really important thing about this is that you oh goodness, I just lost my train of thought. This does happen to me. um I think the second thing around meaning is this, that we often look at meaning as being, it is the sole responsibility of the leader to infuse meaning. It's a huge mistake because I think what is more powerful is for every single person to be like, okay, I know what my part is in contributing to this greater goal. And if that is the case, then it's not pro forma and it's also not forced because it's coming from them and it's not being imposed upon them.
Indeed, Miss Kim, very well said. And leaders increase revenues and profits by 25% or more as a little as 90 days. What untapped potential do most business leave on the table, and why is so hard for leaders to see it themselves?
I think it is there. Oh gosh, it's such there. I have so many thoughts about this. I think
Mhm.
one of the things is, if we're talking just from a sales perspective, I think there's a whole variety of questions one needs to ask. Maybe what I would say, the biggest way that I see leaders leaving money on the table or whoever is selling for the company leaving on the table, they do, first of all, they don't ask up front who the decision maker is. So that's number one. Like, you got to be talking to the decision maker. Number two is you never leave a meeting without a next step, right? And I'm going to add a third thing. You never just send a proposal without going over it with somebody, right? With so that you can talk to any objections. So I would say that's one way that companies leave money on the table, I think, all the time. I think the second way that you leave money on the table is kind of wrapping a lot of what we're talking about up, is that when you don't have clear objectives, when everybody is not bought into the why and the mission, there's a lot of inefficiency. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of sales not talking to marketing, you know, sales selling things that operations can't fulfill on, right? So you have a lot of miscommunication and miscues, which at the end of the day is just, it's super inefficient. It costs money and it makes people really unhappy. And then they don't want to perform their best. They don't want to stay. And here's the worst part. It's okay if somebody is unhappy and they choose to leave. The bigger problem is they're unhappy and they choose to stay, right? And then it just poisons everything. And again, if you're a numbers person, this is expensive. And it's not fun. These are the things that keep leaders and entrepreneurs up at night.
Mhm. Interesting. Interesting, Miss Kim. So do you have upcoming book, Miss Kim?
Wait, I'm sorry, say again. Do I have what?
Do you have upcoming book that you
A
having now?
coming book. I do. It thank you for asking. I'm so excited. I have a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and the book, let's keep our fingers crossed, is
Mm-hmm.
coming out in September, and it doesn't have an official title yet. But the book is really about how do you be your authentic self and get all the success, have all the success that you want. It's fighting really against two things. One is that there's a lot of books and a lot of gurus out there and a lot of programs that you can buy that say, well, if you just do it my way, you'll have the kind of success I have, which is
Mm-hmm.
fine if you could actually do it their way. But the reality really is everybody could do it their way. Everybody would already have success, right? So there's a gap there. I think the second thing is that I'm also pushing against, well, maybe I don't know, maybe it's the same point, but this idea of one size fits all. This idea that everybody should do everything the same way so they can get the same results. And people are different. They have different styles, they have different ways of being, and Daniel, here's the thing, is that the way that these like the book says, the guru says, the very famous successful millionaire billionaire says to do things, and I'm going to just give you my easy 5-step process to do it. Well, I say, okay, I can do step 1, I can do step 2. What happens if I can't do step 3? Do I just not get to have that kind of success? Like, I just think that that is a terrible answer. And so, in the same way that leaders can be badasses in a whole variety of ways with a whole range of personalities and be successful, I think so can all leaders and entrepreneurs. And I want to give them, I want to butt a little bit against convention and get people thinking for themselves and not thinking in this group think.
Mm. Well, good luck to your upcoming book, Miss Kim, and looking forward for more success.
Thank you.
For entrepreneurs running their own business, what is the difference between being busy and being productive, and how can leaders tell which one they are?
That's a great question. I run into this in my coaching practice all the time. Leaders who think everything rides on their own shoulders, who are still doing a lot of tactical things because they're doing the things that got them to be successful, right? They're doing the things that help them grow their business. And then they're working on their business because now the business is substantial enough that they need to do that. And it's a hugest mistake that thinking that working hard equals success, working a ton of hours equals success. What I would encourage every entrepreneur to do is to look at their calendar and look in their task list and really honestly say, this is something that only I can do,
Mm,
and not, this is what I've always done. So I'm just going to keep doing that and then I'm going to do more. Also, too, although I don't subscribe to the you start out as an entrepreneur and you can work 4 hours a week. Like I don't believe that. What I will say though
mhm,
is that you also at a certain level need to be working in your unique value, in the things that only you can do. Therefore you got to rewrite your own job description. And I think it's very hard because I really do think that we hold for ourselves, like, I worked so hard to get here, I have to be busy all the time because if I'm not, then how am I going to be successful? Right. So really at the end of the day, Daniel, there's a lot of head trash around this idea between busy and productive. And that is a place where a lot of introspection, potentially coaching, reading, doing, you have to do something to change that mindset. It's a huge
mm.
problem.
Definitely. Mindset, mindset, mindset. So, Ms. Kim, to wrap up our discussion for today, this is the final question of the year. Are you proud of you? Because at the end, that's all that really matters for business leaders measured by revenue, growth, and external validations. How do they find pride in themselves beyond the numbers?
Yeah, Daniel, thank you. That's such a nice question to end this on. I would say yes, I am infinitely proud of myself. And I will tell you why. Because I walk the walk. So I am somebody who is constantly doing the work that I ask my clients to do. And yeah, I have a book coming out, right? Like I have a thriving coaching practice, and I'm a I'm in integrity as a person
Mm.
and a coach and an entrepreneur. And that's really important to me.
Certainly, and Ms. Kim, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your upcoming book, your coaching, or anything you want to promote on Entrepreneurship 101?
Thank you. Sure. I would love it if you would subscribe to my newsletter. You can find it on my website, kimmillerhershon.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. The newsletter's up on LinkedIn. We put out content every single day. And I just love to know you and to get a chance to chat with you.
Yes, definitely. So, Ms. Kim, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate your thoughtful questions.
Likewise, with your empowering answer, and I'm inviting you to please do come over to my book one review and let's talk about your upcoming book or once you publish it. Either wise. So, Miss Kim, thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you.
What can people see you soon?